everybody. Welcome to the Uptaking Painting and Ceramics 22-inch round truck interchangeable. We have these for sale in our store and on our website at uptaking.com. Our phone number is 845-744-4400. For every round that we have or every project that we have, you can watch the video on YouTube and follow along at your own pace. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these off. These are all the pieces that will go on top, and we're going to put them to the side. And what we're going to do is start with our white paint. In your kit, you're going to have paper plates, you'll have white paint or paints that come in cups. You'll have all the colors that you need to create your masterpiece. You'll have a few makeup pads. And we're going to start with this sponge brush. So less is more. You're going to paint a little bit at a time and then go back over it. So I want this to have a little bit of a rustic feeling. So I am going to start light and add as I go. So I'm working from home today, in case you hear my kids or my dog. I'm in the sunroom with the doors closed behind me, and they are home, obviously. So I'll apologize in advance. Our chocolate lab is a puppy, so he's giving everybody a run for his money, or for their money. Okay, so we are going to go light. You can always add more. We're going to make a few passes on this. And see, I can just kind of get in my feeling here. And go around the edges, grab the edges here so that they have some definition. Make sure you finish your strokes. Okay, so now I'm going to pass back again. You can always add, but it's very hard to take away. So you really want to be very stingy with your paint as you go. My paint's been sitting on here for a little bit, so I'm probably going to have to give myself another douse of paint. Okay, there we go. It's fresh now. It'll glide a little bit easier. There we go. You can get in the grooves there if you want to make your grooves more white. Okay, so you can see the difference. And the long strokes. Don't make every stroke the same, but you want to always kind of finish with a long stroke so it doesn't have a stop point right in the middle. Like this, see? You want to try to blend that in a little bit. All right, and then I'm gonna do the same here. I'm gonna get in these grooves here. Okay, I'm gonna get in my grooves down here. I'm using kind of the edge of the sponge. I like it. All right, I think I might go a little bit more white. I'm going to antique it after. We're going to do that together. It's personal preference if you want to do that, or you could just kind of leave it more of a whitewashed look. I hear a lot of stop upstairs, so I'm thinking that the dog is giving them, yep, a little bit of run for their money. I think the dog is showing them who's boss. Okay. I like it. so you can okay, I like it. Okay, so I have my paint. I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to let this just dry for a few minutes. Okay, make sure that wherever you put it, it does not get on anything else. So my space is a little tight. Give me 1 second. Okay. And I'm going to put this over here. All right, so I'm going to let that dry. And now I'm going to grab my add-ons, pieces that go on top. So we have the stars, we have pumpkins, we have cute flowers, a Christmas tree or an evergreen, and then the welcome. So I'm going to start with the welcome because I was already using black from the previous project. So we have a makeup pad. I'm going to hold it like a little, the top is like a little handle. And I'm going to start with the W. And I don't have too much paint on my brush here or on my pad. And you won't cover it 100% on the first pass. So just get it on. We're going to make another pass of it. So if you use just a little bit of paint, when you go back over it, it will become opaque for the second time. So the idea right now is to just cover it. Okay. So I will tell you that this is the first time I'm painting this, so we're going to kind of design together. But I know that I want my welcome to be black. And I'm going to do this one. They are a little delicate, the letters, so you don't want to really be pushing too hard. You can put it down on the table if you want. Let's try it. I was just holding it above because my tablecloth is black and I wanted you to be able to see what I was painting. So it's nice and quiet. I'm at home today doing a few projects. Usually we're in the studio, so you don't see my teal wall, but I'm in the sunroom. We live in front of a farm, so it's nice and quiet. Okay. So I'm almost done with the first pass of this. Okay. So while I have my black out, my tires on my truck are going to be black. So I'm just going to get those with the makeup brush too, makeup pad. And I'm going to go, you know, they will be solid black, but I am painting in a circle just because it is a circle. And then the other one. Okay. Okay, dog's giving them a run for their money, so you might hear them. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my black again, my W, and you can see the difference. I'm giving it a second pass here. It really does cover the second time. So again, you go really, really light so that the drying time is quick, because if the paint is wet, it's just going to move around. So you want to just have a little bit of paint on your pad and just give it a second coat. Less is more. And you'll find that your supplies will last you long too. You have plenty of paints left if you want to just paint on a canvas or... Okay, so I did my W. And now I'm going to go back and do my welcome. The rest of it, I should say. And like I said, you can put this down on the table. You could put newspaper down. You could open up a garbage bag if you wanted. I have a throwaway tablecloth on mine. So these are sold as kits. The kit comes with everything that you see here. You'll have glue and jute for hanging, Velcro tabs. Okay, so just remember, less is more. If you happen to get anything in any of those little creases there, you could just use the other side and make sure that it's not clumped in the corners and that you don't have any clumps on top. That looks pretty good. So I do want my welcome to be kind of covered, nice and opaque with black. If you want it to be more farmhousey, you don't have to be so solid with it. So I'm putting these aside. Okay, and then I'm going to go back over my tires a little bit because I want them to be nice and solid. And again, I'm using the same amount of paint. I'm not going crazy because I want it to dry. Wood is porous, so it will dry kind of on the faster side anyway. But when you use a little bit of paint, it doesn't look so clumped on, so messy. So less really helps. Okay, so I have my tires done. Alrighty, so for right now I'm done with my black. I'm going to put that aside. My makeup pad. So for these runs, you can do them brown. If you want to do them black, you can do them black. I think I might do mine black, actually. I think I kind of like the idea of that. So I'm going to go back and use some of this. And I'm going to go right across. And I might even just give this one pass so it kind of looks a little brown. Okay. And then we're going to go right on the top there. I'm going to put it down so that my hands aren't so shaky. And then I'm going to follow the line of my star. Might have to break out the paintbrush. Oh, the dog's coming down. Okay. I may use my paintbrush for this because honestly, I think it's a little bit too messy. So I'm going to break out the paintbrush. You'll have paintbrushes in yours as well. And I'm just going to these. That dog is giving them a run for their money up there. Okay, so I am just going to make this go on an angle. Let's go on an angle. Bye. Oh yeah, go ahead.
How's it going?
so we did this one. Now we're going to go over to the pumpkins. And I'm going to finish out the bottoms there, and I'm going to fill them in with black. Okay, then I'm going to get the edges here, fill them in with black, and the edge right here. I'm sure I'll have to go over it later when I do the rest of the pumpkins and the other items on there. Okay, so let's take a little look-see at this one. So we are going to, I'm going to go over top of this when I paint the tree. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go straight across for now. Straight across. Again, you can keep this down on the table so that you're not having a shaky hand. Not too worried about the straight line just yet because I'm going to have my branches come over that. Okay, and then I have the bottoms. Not too bad. I have the window open. It's getting a little breezy out. Alright, so that's good for that right now. I am going to wash my brush and I'm going to work on the red. So I'm going to take a makeup pad, or you can use the brush, but this is going to be solid red in here. So I'm going to give it the first coat. I kind of like actually the wood coming through this, so I don't know if I'm going to give this a second coat. I kind of like it. I'm going with the grain. Yeah, I kind of gives it more of like a antique looking truck. Okay. So there's no clumps. Oh, I like this. I like the color. Perfect. Yeah, I like the wood coming through. It so I'm not going to go over this a second time, the truck itself. I think that the wood coming through really adds a really nice feature to this. So this is going to be just one pass. So you never know when you're doing something what you're going to end up with. You know, what you think you might do, you really end up not. Okay. So just make sure that your strokes are consistent if you're just doing one pass of it. Okay. And make sure that you don't have any clumps anywhere. If you do, you can kind of get the edge of your makeup pad in there. Yeah, I like just the one pass. I think two might be too opaque and make it a little bit fake looking. So I'm gonna leave it like that. If you want, you could put a little brown, some rust on it. Let's try that. Let's see. I'm gonna take a little brown and just kind of accentuating these curves a little bit. Tiniest little bit of brown. Okay, so when paint is wet, it will blend. So I went and I'm not even washing this or anything or changing it. I have put a little bit of red in it, and then I went right into the brown, and then I'm going right into the red. I think it looks pretty cool. I do the same down here, just so it's finished off. A little bit of brown down there. Well, it's always kind of cool what you end up with, right? I'm gonna do it here, maybe just give this a little shading in here. So I went and put a little bit of red. Now I'm gonna, you can see I put a little brown. And then I'm just gonna blend it in there. Kind of cool. I'm gonna go up top a little bit, so I'm gonna put a little red just to wet it. And then I'm gonna put a little brown. Okay, and I'll probably do a little bit on here. If you get any little makeup pad things after they dry, you can kind of pick them off a little bit. So over here, I'm gonna put a little bit of red. Oops, I got a little red in there. I'm gonna put a little brown. A tiny bit more brown over here, maybe. And I'm gonna do a little right there. So I'm gonna put a little red. And I'm gonna put a little brown in there. Looks pretty cool. Love it. All right, so I think my truck is done. I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna put that aside to dry. Where aside, I don't know, but I'm gonna put it aside. I'm gonna switch this up. Okay, so now I am going to do my Christmas tree. So I'm going to use a brush. You'll have brushes in your kits. And I'm going to just kind of do wisps going all the way down, so that I can go over my sides of my truck here. Just giving little wisps. And this will be the first pass, so don't get too caught up on what it looks like. We're going to have other stuff on top of it. I don't care if I see some of the wood coming through. Okay, so I'm going to add a little yellow to my green. So this is my palette. I had a little yellow and green. And I'm going to put some strokes of yellow and green in there. And pretend there's a line down the middle, and that's where your strokes are coming from. Okay. Okay. We're going to toggle back and forth here. Okay. I love you too. See you later. Okay. All right. One of my kids is leaving. Okay. So far, so good. You can see I'm not washing my brush. I'm going back and forth. So. Okay. So then I'm going to put some darker green on top of it. I'm literally not washing my brush. Just like little flicks of color. Okay. So you have to watch out that this is a little bit of a heavier paint. So we want to make sure that this is dry before we put it on our circles, because it will, if you move it around, it'll make a trail of paint on there, so we don't want that. Okay, so that is going to be my tree. I'm going to put that aside to dry. I'm going to wash my brush. Okay. And I'm going to go to my stars. I'm actually just going to use my makeup pad for most of it. So I have yellow. Oops. So you have a lot of the wood coming through because yellow is not very opaque. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to a brush. And I'm going to make these ends here. So if you want, you can make these stars red, white, and blue, which is probably a good idea. Probably should have done that. Okay, so I'm going to let those dry for a second. I'm going to go back to those. We're going to do our pumpkins now. So our pumpkins, I didn't even wash my brush in that yellow. We're going to put some, using my paintbrush, and I'm going in the shape of the pumpkin. Okay. And then I'm going to go in the shape of this one. Okay, get down to your edge there. Okay. Looks good. This is going to end up being black. All right, and then I'm going to take some yellow, and I'm going to do the same thing, kind of just blending it while my paint is wet to give it some shape, some dimension. And if you put too much yellow and you want to go back over it, you can just go orange right on top. So say you're like, oh, I put too much yellow, well, then just take some orange. While your paint is wet, it will blend. Okay, looks good. Okay, I'm just gonna get some highlights of orange here, right underneath. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the same thing here. Okay, look pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna wash my brush, and I wanna use a little bit of white on those. So just make sure that you dry your brush after it comes out of the water. Okay. I'm just gonna do some streaks of color here. Okay. And I'm actually going to do the same thing on my tree. I'm just going to put some whites. Okay. Looks good. Alrighty. So the next thing we have to do is our flowers. Okay, so I'm going to wash my brush again. And I'm going to dry it off. So I think I'm going to do maybe a pink flower, a yellow flower, and an orange flower maybe. Or maybe I'll do a teal flower. I'm going to do a teal flower in the middle. So I'm using my brush. I'm going to keep it wet. Kind of going in the shapes of the petals. Okay. Don't worry if you got any on your leaves there. We're going to go over top of that. Alrighty. And then I'm going to do a pink flower. So I'm going to take a little scoop of my white. I'm not loving my pink over there. So I'm going to take a little scoop of my white and a little scoop of my red. And I'm going to mix them together to make pink. Alrighty. So this is going to be my pink flower. Good. I'm going to wash that. And then I think I'm going to do an orange flower. So that's going to be this side. And I'm going to add just a tiniest little scoop of orange to that. So that, I mean white to that, so I could kind of make it along the same colors. That straight orange is a little hard, a little too bright for this. Alright, looks good. Wash my brush one more time. I'm going to do my leaves now. So I'm drying it off in between. So I have my green here for my leaves. Alright, so our leaves and our stem. We're working our way down. Do my stem. I'm actually going to add a little yellow into it too. Don't worry about if you get any on the pot. The pot's going to be last. Just added a little yellow into right on my brush. I did not wash my brush. Okay, so this guy's a little smaller. And then I'm going to take a little yellow, and my paint is wet, so I'm just going to kind of fold that yellow into that. Alright, and then I have my last one. Oops, went into my yellow, meant to go into my green. Alright, and then I'm going to add a little yellow into it. Back to this one, just add a little bit more yellow. Alright, looking good. So our flowers need centers. I think I'm going to use white. Just to get them to be a little brighter, I'm going to do just a little circle. Kind of whimsical. Might even just do some little dots, little lines. Looks cute. Alrighty, and I think we should have kind of like a terracotta pot. So that is going to be a little red and a little brown. I want it to be a little bit more on the brown side. And I'm going to add just a smidgen of orange into it. Maybe a little yellow. Alright. Alright. So, I'm going to just go right over that green. This is where you're going to kind of really make your pot shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. My brush might be a little bit big right here, but it looks cute. Okay, and then here I went over with my black, so I'm going to adjust that size. Probably would help if I had my glasses on. Alright, I'm going to fill that in. Oops, wrong paint. And then I'm going to do this one, come right across, come down. Okay, looks cute. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm just going to fix up my shapes of the pots. Alrighty, and while we have that stem, the brown out, we could do the stem. Okay, and I'm going to wash my brush again. And while I have a clean brush, I'm going to do the centers of the tires. So I'm going to just do a little white. And I'm not even making a full circle, I'm just solid circle. Could even put a little highlight here and maybe a little highlight there. And just some highlights. Cute. Alright, we're going to put that aside. I'm going to wash my brush one more time. Okay. Alright, I'm not 100% on these stars. I think I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to do one red and one blue. Alrighty. So let me get some blue paint. So this one is going to come down like this. So I'm going to do the first one red. Sorry about that. Probably have to go over it twice, but we'll survive. All right. Let's see. This one is going to come out like this. And again, if you use just a little bit of paint each time, it'll dry fast and we'll be able to go over it again. If you use a lot, it just takes longer to dry. The only way you're going to get opacity is by covering it a few times. So blue on the other side. So you just have to make sure that you don't go too close and drag the red for right now. I'll end up going over my black a little bit. You can see once you go over it again, as even now it's just starting to dry, and it covers it a little bit better. So we're gonna just let that dry. All right, we'll give that a few minutes and then we'll give it another pass of color. All right, and while we are waiting for that, we're going to just touch up our areas of black. Now put that on. Okay, so down here, I'm gonna just, any little areas that I missed with my orange, I'm gonna cover up. And then I have the little bit in here, which is gonna be part of that. Actually, I'm gonna make this go across. And I'm gonna make this go across. Okay, and then very carefully Alright, and then we're going to eyeball it this way. And then we're going to fill it in. Very steady hands. Okay. And then if you want, you can put a couple highlights on there. Alright, so we're going to put that over there. We're going to put some highlights on here. Our tree, I'm going to leave our tree that it's hanging over our branches because I think that is probably a good place to have it. All right, and then this one, we're going to wash our brush, get back to our black, and we're going to put our black over top. Because the pot dots have to be sitting behind it. Okay. Do the middle one. One. Again, it's easier if you put your piece down really and do it. Right, and then we have this little bit here. Let's say right about there. Okay, and then while we have our white out, we'll just give it some highlights. Okay, and then we're going to go back to our stars. We'll do the red first. Let's see how doing the second pass, it's becoming opaque, which is great. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to my blue. Much better. Okay. Blue might need one more pass. We'll let it dry and we'll go back to it. And I think I'm going to put some white on top of it after. Just so that you get the illusion of red, white, and blue. Could use it for 4th of July. Originally I was thinking like firecrackers, but fireworks, but I think this is a better alternative. Okay. All right. We're going to give that a second to dry. I'm going to put my pieces that I have completed off to the side. Tidy up my work area here. Okay. I'm going to bring this back in the meantime while we're waiting for our stars to dry, because that's going to take a few minutes because I used a brush. And what I want to do is I want to show you how to put a little bit of antiquing wax and a baby wipe. This will all be in your kit if you want it. So you need one baby wipe. And we're going to use a little bit of antiquing wax. Okay, so I'm going to dish a little out. This will be in a cup. So less is more. This will get really muddy fast. So you want to just start out with a little. If you need a little bit more, then add it. If you don't, then don't add it. A little goes a very long way. Okay, so I have my baby white, and I have a little bit of antiquing wax. And the first thing I'm going to do is grab the sides. And the centers here. So the longer it sits, the darker it will become. Do these guys first. So again, switch hands. And I'm going to come down here and do my eyes a little bit. And then I'm going to pull in from the edges a smidgen. Just kind of feather that out. And I'll pull from this side. Little bit goes a long way. And I'm going to just darken up the edges there. And I'm going to pull down here. Sorry, I have my slippers on. Convenience of doing this from home. Pull in from the sides, let the edge grab your glaze, and then just once this goes on, it's very hard to get it off. You'll have to repaint. So you really want to just do a little bit at a time. Because you can really almost like tea stain it, like years ago when you used to use a tea bag and stain your linens to get that antique look. So you really want to go really light. And you know, it's an antique truck, so if you want to go a little bit more rustic, you just go a little darker. But you do want to just do it a little bit at a time. You can see I did these lines and now I'm doing them again just to make them darker. But I didn't go really dark right exactly when I started because I kind of wanted to build it up so I have room to change if I wanted to. If I went really dark and I didn't like it, there wouldn't be enough room to make some adjustments. Just put a little bit in here. Okay, I think that's enough. I don't want to go any darker than that. All right, so I'm going to put that aside. And I'm going to put this aside for a second. And I'm going to bring this back. I'm going to dry my brush. And we're almost done here. So I'm just going to give this blue. I might even just do it with a makeup pad. Maybe it'll cover it a little bit easier. There we go. So I'm going to give this dry this, and I'm going to add a little bit of white here and there, just for that red, white, and blue. So I think I might just do some white. Stripes in there. And the same with this. This is still wet, so you just really want to make sure your paint is kind of dry. Okay, dry my brush here and wash it. I want to just do my black. So I think I'm gonna make my rails go over my stars so they look like they're sitting in the truck. Okay. Looks good. Across. Okay, and then the bottom one. Okay, looks good. All right, and then I'm going to take a little bit of white. And I'm just going to give it some highlights of color here. All right, and I'm done with my brushes. All right, so this one's wet, so we're just going to be careful when we're on top of our circle around. Pile this up so no accidents happen. Okay. So this is going to be the last one we're going to kind of deal with. I'm going to bring our round back. Okay. Sure. Okay. So we are going to position our stuff. So if you have any little bits of makeup pad left, you can kind of just rub it off. Okay, and we're going to make sure the backs are dry. I'm going to kind of position where we think we want this to go. Okay? So let's see. Okay, so welcome is probably going to have to go about up there, and the truck is probably going to have to go around here. Okay. So make sure it's centered side to side, like that, and then we have our pieces. So some of them might be wet, so just be careful on the backs. We're going to kind of just give it a little look-see to see if it looks good. So what you're going to do is the 2 Velcro dots will go on the backs. I would put them down around the rails, and then that way you can pick them up and put them down. This is going to be permanently, permanently stuck to the board. So in your kit you have some E6000 glue. That's what we're going to use. If we are doing it in the studio, we do have a nail gun, so we would help you with that. So I'm just going to squeeze a little in my dish. You can use a Q-tip to put it on. You could use a toothpick to put it on. All right, so I'm going to take a couple scoops. Okay, I'm going to put on my wheels. Doesn't really take too much. And I'm going to put one here and one there. And it does dry clear, so if anybody, and if it was to squeeze out a little bit, just wipe it a little. Okay, so I'm going to go right below this line there. And I'm going to make sure that I'm centered from side to side. Okay. Make sure sure your truck is pretty in tune with where you want it to be. And then just push it down. And it dries solid, I would say, within an hour. Okay, and if you have this kind of lined up with this line, you can kind of get a good idea of how straight it is. Okay, so just push it all down. Re-dry. If you painted and you think your paint is still wet, you can dry it with a hair dry. Okay, so then we have this guy. So what we want to do is we are going to have a bow at the top. So we want to make sure that we have enough space for the, well, if you don't want to put a bow, you don't have to, but kind of dresses it up. Could always make it removable. Just tie it with a knot. So we are going to glue this down. So I'm going to leave my W in place, and I'm going to put the welcome. So I'm going to take note that I kind of have it so that it's almost along this line, just as a point of reference. So again, I'm going to just take a little bit and put it on the thicker areas. You might get some that squeezes out. You could always just wipe it. If you're going to hang these outside and it's under a porch overhang, you do not have to really put any sealer on it. If it's a porch that tends to get wet, you could put a little spray polyacrylic. And if you are putting it like out in the elements, you can put some spar urethane. You could also hang them in the house, in the entranceway. All right. Okay, so I'm ready for this guy to go down. So I think I'm gonna go like right around there. Okay, let's see, let's make sure they all fit pretty good. Tree is the biggest one. He looks good. Okay, so that looks good. Got in good shape here. So I'm gonna push this down. Okay, and I'm gonna come back and push this down. Like I said, if you're at the studio, you know, and you're not gonna be picking it up right away, we could just use a nail gun. If you're gonna be home, just let it sit flat for a little while. You could even put a couple books on it. Okay, just a little bit more glue. And I'm going to do the W. So I'm going to put a little tab there, and a little tab there, and I'm going to put a little tab there, down there. Try and get one up here just so that it kind of has something holding it together there. So this is E6000 glue. It'll say it on your tube, or it'll say craft glue or super glue, but it's pretty good. It sticks pretty quickly. All right, and this you want to kind of just make sure that you're lined up with the bottom of the L there for the most part, and that it looks like it's part of the word. Don't go too far over. All right, and if any sticks out, like I said, you could use, I'm going to use my brush because it's a not so great brush. You could always use a toothpick or a Q-tip. It does dry clear, so you don't have to give it too much worry. Okay, and so then I think I'm just going to give this a couple of dots after, but you're going to use Velcro, so you're not going to use glue on these, okay? Each one will have its own dot of Velcro. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is make our bow. If you want to put a bow on, you can. I'm going to use black and white buffalo print. So what we're going to do is make a cross, and then you're going to pull it. So you're going to kind of make almost like a tie. Okay. And then push it down. And shorten this up a little bit. Okay, so this is going to go up here. And you're going to end up kind of like fluffing the edges there. All right, so I'm going to, you have some twine in your box there, in your little kit. So I'm actually going to make this just a smidgen bigger, because I'm going to do 2 layers. Okay, so you kind of want your tabs to be the same and these to be the same. So we're going to cut that. And then I'm going to hold that. I'm going to do it again. Let's go the wrong way. Okay. Oops. My stomach's growling. Okay, so I'm going to take that and do 2 layers. Okay, so we have 2 there. And then we're going to take our twine, you have it kind of grouped in the middle there, and put it around. And tie it, turn it over. Okay, and then you're going to kind of just, it has wire in it, so it'll stay in place. Okay, so what we want to do is we'll make the top 2 the same. We're going to bend them in half and cut upwards so it gives it a dovetail. Okay, and these 2 should be the same, about the same size and length. So you're going to want to kind of put them next to each other when you cut. Okay, and then you're going to do the bottom 2. There's my puppy. Probably sees me. Okay, and then you're going to do this one. Okay. This one's a little longer. Let's cut this one up again. Okay. All right, so I just want to show you how to make that bow again, at least the first loop of it, and then you'll just duplicate it for the smaller one. So you're going to take your ribbon, and you're going to make, I don't know, almost like a Cancer ribbon, really. And then you're going to just push it down in the middle. Okay? So it looks like this. And then just push it down in the middle. Okay? Alrighty, so we have that. Put that aside. And I am going to put this through the hole. Turn this here so you can see it. So I'm going to put it through the hole and I'm just going to tie it. It has a double knot in here, and I'm going to put a double knot through here. So I'm putting one end in, so I'm actually tying it right around the top. You can tie it to the jute holder. You can put one in the center so that if you're going to lean it up against a fireplace or something, that you don't have to worry about seeing the holes there. So I'm just pushing these down again. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this jute. And again, it's in your kit. You'll have enough. It'll be all pre-cut. And I'm going to double it. And I'm going to cut it. Okay. And then I'm going to tie a knot at this end so that it doesn't end up traveling. Okay. I'm going to turn it. And I'm going to put one end through, just like the other side. And I'm going to tie Oh, let's put this end through first. Okay, so I'm going to put this end through the hole here. Oops. Around there, and I'm just going to tie this in a double knot. Okay, and then I'm going to put this end through. Both of them should go through. And I'm going to tie this up a double knot. You can trim the little tails of it. Okay. And I'm going to trim this tail. And I have my tails for the bow. So that you don't see them. You can also hot glue the bow on. Okay, I'm going to turn this around for you. So you have the holder and you have your bow. Okay, you can see how quick that glue stays on. And I'm going to put the flowers in. I'm over winter already. And so there you have it. So thank you for following us on YouTube. Subscribe to us, follow us, share us, like us. We have a website, uptaking.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Our phone number is 845-744-4400. These will be on our website as well. You can order online. You could have it shipped to you. You could have it picked up in the store. We have a variety of them to choose from, and we're adding every day. They're great take-home kits, especially during this whole COVID craziness. Thank you again, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks.